Well, we could call this gospel three dreams. This great figure of the just, the wonderful, the patient, faithful Saint Joseph, of whom Pope Francis has declared a year in this coming 12 months. But first, let me say something about dreams and families on this Feast of the Holy Family. For 9 months, every father and mother dream about their baby. They dream about what kind of child he or she will be. And you can't have a family without dreams. Once a family loses the ability to dream, children do not grow, love does not grow, life shrivels up and dies. So every evening during your night prayer, ask yourself this question: today, did I dream about my children's future? Today, did I dream about the love of my spouse, my wife, my husband? Did I dream about my parents, my grandparents who've gone before me? Dreaming is very important, especially dreaming in families. How many difficulties in married life are resolved where we leave room for dreaming, when we stop a moment to think about our spouse and we dream about the good present in all good things round us. Joseph's dream revealed God's will for him. In this moment of rest in the Lord, as we pause from our daily obligations and activities, God speaks to us just as He's speaking to us in the gospel that we have just read. He speaks to us in our prayer, in the quiet of our hearts. Let us reflect on what the Lord is saying to us, especially in today's Gospel reading. And there are 3 aspects of this passage I'd like to dwell on for a moment. First, resting in the Lord. Second, rising, getting up with Jesus and Mary as Joseph did. And thirdly, being a prophetic voice in our world today. So resting in the Lord. Rest is so necessary for our bodies, the health of our minds and bodies. And it's also so often difficult to achieve because of the many demands made on us and those of us who are parents or grandparents. But rest is also necessary for our spiritual life, spiritual health, so that we can hear God's voice and understand what He's asking of us. Joseph was chosen by God to be the foster father of Jesus in a dream, and the husband of Mary. As Christians, we too are called, like Joseph, to make a home for Jesus, to make a home for Jesus, making a home for Him in our hearts, in our family, in our parish, in our communities. To hear and accept God's call to make a home for Jesus, we must be able to rest in the Lord. We need to make time each day to rest in the Lord, To pray is to rest in the Lord. Yes, I know it's true, and we all have such busy lives, and it's difficult to find the time. But if we do not pray, we will not know the most important thing of all, namely God's will for us. And for all our activity, our busyness, without prayer, will accomplish very little. So resting in prayer is especially important for families, for it is in the family that we first learn how to pray. And don't forget the adage that the family that prays together stays together. This is important. It's in the family that we come to know God, to grow into adults, men and women of faith, to see ourselves as members of the greater family of the Church. It's in the family that we learn how to love, how to forgive, how to give way to each other, how to respect each other, to be generous, to be open, not to be closed and selfish. We learn to move beyond our own needs, to meet the others and share our lives with them. That's why it's important to pray in the family, and that's why families are so important in God's plan for the world. You know, our society increasingly begins to think of there's the state, maybe local government, and individuals. And the most important core of God's plan is the family. That's the basic unit of society. So to rest in the Lord is to pray, and to pray together as a family. Next, rising with Jesus and Mary. Yes, those precious moments of repose when we're resting with the Lord in prayer are moments that we might wish to prolong, but the time comes, as with St. Joseph, once we've heard God's voice, we must rise from our slumber, we must get up and act. And in our families, we have to get up and act. Faith doesn't remove us from the world, but draws us more deeply into it. And this too is important. We have to be engaged with the world, but with the power of prayer. Each of us, in fact, has a special place in preparing for the coming of God's kingdom in our world. And just as the gift of the Holy Family was entrusted to St. Joseph, so the gift of the family and its place in God's plan for the world is entrusted to us, just as like to St. Joseph. The angel of the Lord revealed to Joseph the dangers that threatened Jesus and Mary, forcing them to flee from Egypt and then later to settle in Nazareth. So too, in our time, God calls upon us to recognize the dangers threatening our families, all the ideologies out there, and to protect our families from harm. Joseph listened and responded to the call of God to protect Jesus and Mary, to become a blessing not only for the Holy Family, but for the whole of humanity. With Mary, Joseph served as a model for the boy Jesus, as he grew in wisdom, age, and grace, and skills as a carpenter. When families bring children into the world, They train them in faith and sound values and teach them to contribute to society, to be a blessing in our world. And families can be a blessing for the whole of humanity. God's love becomes present and active by the way we love and the good works, the good deeds that we do. Thereby we extend God's kingdom in this world, and in doing this we prove ourselves faithful to the prophetic mission that has been given to us each at our baptism. Yes, to be missionaries, to be faithful disciples of Jesus. Do not hide your faith. Do not hide Jesus, but rather carry him into the world and offer the world the witness of family life.